As soon as Xu Huai, who was lurking in the Shanghai Secret Service, was awakened by the organization, his superiors were arrested and imprisoned. Faced with fierce and counter-attacking traitors and cunning and cruel enemies, where will he go? On the streets of Shanghai and Shanghai, beneath the bustling facade of lights, wine, lies a multitude of betrayals, kidnappings, and assassinations. If you want to stay in the wolf's den, you have to be more like a wolf. Xu Huai. This is a story about capturing and killing Japanese spies. The book titles are also called Invisible Frontline, People Dealing with Devils, Dancer on the Blade, You Are a Devil, No, I Am in Hell, My Undercover Diary, keywords of the novel. Spy Battle Shanghai. See no pop-ups. Spy Battle Shanghai. See complete collection download. Spy Battle Shanghai. See latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Joint. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Joint. On December 23, 1936, Shanghai. In the night, the charm of Shanghai still lingers. She is like an elegant lady, wearing a gorgeous qipao, sitting elegantly and quietly in front of the window, watching the ups and downs outside quietly. In an old apartment in the French concession, Xu Huai stood in front of the mirror, wearing a grey long shirt and cotton jacket. In front of the mirror, he took out snow cream and applied it with dust on his face and neck. Her fair face instantly became dull and greasy, and she put on dentures. Her cold and stern face also became a bit rounded, and she bent down a few steps. Looking at his unrecognizable self in the mirror, Xu Huai nodded with satisfaction. Take out the shell gun from your waist, neatly check the bullets, and press down on the safety. The shell gun, also known as the Mauser pistol or the fast and slow machine or box gun, is exquisitely designed, safe to use, and has tremendous power. However, the drawbacks are also obvious, such as large muzzle bounce and difficulty in controlling shooting accuracy. However, this type of pistol can be seen everywhere on the black market and is difficult to investigate. Xu Huai deliberately bought one from the black market. After tidying up, I gazed around the room, solemnly picked up the Declaration from the table, opened the door, and went downstairs. He is going to meet up today. Among the diverse information in the Declaration, there is an inconspicuous notice about finding someone. Brother Guohua. Brother Guozhang, I have arrived in Shanghai today. Let's have a glass of turbid wine at Wanghai Tower and wait for a moment. The signing date was December 22, yesterday. Guohua and Guozhang are naturally pseudonyms, just a code name. Wanghai Tower is also a fictional address, which is the information of a summoning connector. On the second day after the notice for finding someone is posted, they will meet at the agreed time and place. In the dusk, Xu Huai walked on the street, his eyes firm and calm, his step steady and steady. It seemed that a voice was calling out to him from the bottom of his heart, causing him to run wild all the way. Because the person I will see next is particularly important to him, because in the past 2 years, he can embrace and laugh, all of whom are enemies. The instructions for the joint were sent to both of them at the same time by the organization. Now, the other party must be waiting for him at the agreed place, and like him, they have been waiting for 2 years. On the cold street, a rickshaw puller leisurely crossed his steps. Seeing Xu Huai waving, the rickshaw driver quickly turned the front of the carriage and greeted him. The coachman looked like he was in his 30s or 40s, with rough skin and a grey towel tied around his neck. In the extremely cold weather, I was wearing only a tattered grey shirt, and my dark face showed a hint of fatigue. Tongnan Village. Okay, please sit down. The man seemed to be not good at words, gave a stiff smile, greeted Xu Huai to get into the car, and quickly started. Tong'anli is an old alley in the French concession, and Qinghe Distillery is located in this alley. It is a typical slum and belongs to the paradise of Lifu. It is a good place to connect with fish and dragons. Half an hour later, the coachman slowly parked his car at a brightly lit and bustling alley entrance and smiled, saying, "Here we are, please take your time." Xu Huai got off the car, took out a 2-cent fiat coin, and turned around to leave. The coachman put away his smiling face and slowly disappeared into the street. The Qinghe distillery is brightly lit and bustling with people. 3 or 2 groups of drinkers are sitting everywhere, punching and bragging, everywhere. The waiter carrying a wine jug shuttled through the crowd, warmly shouting and greeting guests, and no one would pay attention to Xu Huai, an unwelcome passerby. Xu Huai didn't directly enter the store. He walked past like a passerby, his eyes observing everything around him. Someone shouted, "Waiter, come and have a pot of wine." "Here it is, the wine is here." A shout came into Xu Huai's ear, making him tremble with fear. He is too familiar with this voice with a northeastern accent. Lu Hui, a colleague of the Action Science Group, is usually very easygoing. Hu. Xu Huai suppressed his surprise in his heart and walked slowly, silently observing the customers inside the store. Sure enough, there was a person he knew sitting on the left side at 9 o'clock, his colleague Xu Huai, the leader of the Shanghai District Action Team. Xu Huai has a kind face, a simple and honest appearance, and simple clothes. Walking on the street, if you don't speak up, you will subconsciously think that he is a country bumpkin from somewhere. However, in reality, this person is the most capable general under Zhou Zhenglong, the webmaster of Shanghai District. He is a demon who is extremely skilled in disguise, cunning, and murderous without blinking an eye. Xu Huai turned his head stiffly, his face uncertain. Does Xu Huai know the location of the joint so well? There must be traitors in the organization. So today's meeting. Traps. Xu Huai trembled all over, forcing himself to calm down, lowering the brim of his hat, and sprinting through. At this moment, 2 people emerged from the dark alley and saw Xu Huai. They sternly asked, "What are you sneaking around for?" Without hesitation, Xu Huai drew his gun and started shooting. Bang, bang, the 2 fell to the ground in response. Gunshots rang out, and a hurried running sound could be heard in the distance. Xu Huai dared not step forward to check and quickly flashed into the dark alley. In the tavern, a middle-aged man sat in a dim corner, with a glass of turbid wine, accompanied by a stack of peanuts, eating delicious food. There was also a declaration at the corner of the table. The man looked 40 years old, with gray and disheveled hair. He was dressed in a long gray coat and looked dusty. His face was filled with desolation and dissatisfaction, and he was a living scholar with a sense of poverty. At this moment, when he heard the sound of gunfire, he trembled all over. His hand holding peanuts shook a few times, and his gaze involuntarily glanced at Xu Huai sitting not far away. Xu Huai stood up, his kind face gloomy and terrifying, his eyes flickering with cold light. He grabbed the middle-aged man's collar and said viciously, "What's going on? Why didn't the liaison come in?" "I don't know, maybe he sensed danger. Zhao Bingyi kept everything from me. I just saw him go to the newspaper office and buy another newspaper today. He must know the identity of an undercover agent. If he confesses, what else do you need, this useless person?" Xu Huai sneered, glanced at the commotion outside, walked quickly to the front desk telephone, dialed a phone, and respectfully said, "Webmaster, the mission has failed." "All right, I'll be back soon." When Xu Huai got off the yellow carriage again, he had already disposed of his gray cotton jacket and long shirt. In the cold wind, Xu Huai wrapped himself in clothes, walked around an alley, and entered the apartment. Xu Huai walked slowly upstairs and paused for a few seconds before opening the door to enter. The room is small but tidy, with neatly arranged items. A stack of books is placed on the bookshelf next to the living room, casually but regularly stacked together. Sitting on the sofa, Xu Huai took a hard sip of alcohol, and the spicy and inferior wine made him cough repeatedly. Xu Huai's eyes turned red, revealing his murderous intent. "I don't want an accident to happen during the first meeting. Did my contact person betray me?" Xu Huai has no clue at all. In the office on the second floor of Jinyuan Trading, the lights are brightly lit. A burly man sat expressionless on a black leather chair, holding a blank interrogation record in his hand. The man lit a cigarette, took a few firm puffs, and dialed a phone number. Prepare the meeting room and have all the leaders of the action team and various departments present. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Undercover. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Undercover. Ringing bell. The phone in the living room suddenly rang, like a deadly soul song, making one's heart race a bit faster. Ringing bell. The phone rang again, and Xu Huai finally picked it up. The other end of the phone said, "I'm downstairs, bring this guy down." It's Lu Guqing, Xu Huai's college classmate and also his boss. He is the leader of the Action Science Group, and Xu Huai is the deputy leader. In 1935, which was last summer, Xu Huai and his college classmate Lu Guqing were invited by Dai Chunfeng to join the Special Service Department of the Military Statistics Bureau and participate in the training class for special agents at the Jiangsu and Zhejiang Police Academy. At that time, Lu Guqing, Xu Huai, and others had just graduated from National Jinan University in Shanghai, with great courage and ambition. Because Lu Guqing's hometown is in Fujian, and his father has a military background, 9 close classmates collaborated to establish a mining company, preparing to showcase their skills in the mall. Unfortunately, a fate encounter changed the fate of the few. 9 people formed a company, and as they were about to head south, Lu Guqing took a few people to visit his father's old boss, Yang Hu, who was then the commander of the Shanghai Sea Security, where he met the famous Dai Chunfeng. Lu Guqing, who was handsome, talented, and had a decent background, was immediately taken in by Dai Chunfeng. He fell in love with his family and killed all the other classmates in one fell swoop. Xu Huai joined the Secret Service under the influence of fate. After completing his studies as a police trainee in Jiangsu and Zhejiang, several people were assigned to the Shanghai district. Okay. Xu Huai rubbed his cheeks and quickly adjusted his expression. The guy Lu Guqing mentioned is naturally a gun, not the one on Xu Huai's waist, but the Browning issued by the Secret Service. The gun numbers are all registered with sources. Xu Huai walked into the bathroom, picked out a piece of blue brick at the door, stuffed the barge gun in, and carefully reset the brick. Arriving at the living room, he took out a brand new Browning from a Bible and turned around to go out. Xu Huai locked the door and quickly went downstairs. As soon as he reached the intersection of the apartment, he saw a black Dodge car parked there. Xu Huai glanced at Lu Guqing driving and silently got into the car. The car quickly started and flew away. Do you have a task? Xu Huai pointed 2 3-gun turrets and gave one to Lu Guqing, pretending to ask casually. I heard that 2 brothers died in a group, and the webmaster notified everyone to urgently gather. It's probably not a good thing this big night, Xu Huai complained while bouncing his cigarette ash. Who knows? Lu Guqing shook his head and accelerated his movement. The car took a few turns, passed through a main road, and stopped at the foot of a commercial building. The 2 got off the car, entered through a black iron door next to the building, and went up to the 2nd floor. The sign of Xingyuan Commercial Bank shines brightly under the lights. This is the headquarters of the Shanghai Special Operations Office. At the entrance of the conference room, there stood 2 black-clad men with expressionless faces. Those who entered were all guns searched at the door. The conference room was crowded with people from the action team, except for the heads and leaders of various departments. The conference room was bustling with everyone whispering in unison. In a moment, the webmaster Zhou Zhenglong entered through the small door, and the conference room immediately became quiet for a while. Zhou Zhenglong was around 40 years old, with a white face and a graceful and handsome appearance, giving people a scholarly impression. In fact, this person came from a military background and also devoted himself to Huangpu. He was an old acquaintance of Dai Chunfeng. Zhou Zhenglong sat down in the middle seat with his golden sword, and his secretary Fu Rou whispered in a whisper. All right, everyone is here. The meeting is now. In the meeting room, there was an immediate silence. In a dead silence, Zhou Zhenglong snorted coldly and patted the table, saying, "Today, a group had an operation to lure an undercover agent who was lurking inside us. Unexpectedly, something went wrong. When the undercover agent escaped, he even killed our two brothers, which is extremely despicable. Now, I hope this undercover agent can stand up on his own and voluntarily plead guilty. I will personally report and plead with Boss Dai, leaving him a way out, otherwise the leader of the Red Party will confess soon, and if he wants to surrender again, it won't be too late. Don't blame me for being ruthless and not caring about brotherhood at that time." Zhou Zhenglong's words sounded like a thunderbolt exploding in the air, instantly solidifying the atmosphere in the conference room. Everyone looked at me, I looked at you, with a hint of doubt and scrutiny in their eyes. Xu Huai unconsciously felt a tightness in his heart. Of course, what Zhou Zhenglong said was him, but he could not voluntarily admit it. What? No one admits it. Do you dare to do it or not? Zhou Zhenglong sneered and his sharp eyes swept over everyone like swords. At this moment, Secretary Fu Rou walked in with a happy expression on her face and whispered in Zhou Zhenglong's ear. Zhou Zhenglong's face was also filled with a hint of smile. Then he looked at the crowd and said, "I have good news for everyone. The newly arrested leader of the Red Party, Zhao Bingyi, has confessed. According to him, this undercover agent is currently sitting in this conference room. I will give him another chance and take the initiative to step forward." Xu Huai let out a thud in his heart. Zhao Bingyi and Lao Zhao were his own introducers for joining the party, and he was also arrested. My heart accelerates involuntarily, and I keep asking myself over and over again, what should I do? Seeing no one admit it, Zhou Zhenglong's face darkened and he shouted, "Hu Dahai." Hu Dahai stood up, with a hint of mockery on his honest face, and walked up to the stationmaster Zhou Zhenglong. Zhou Zhenglong whispered a few words to his position. Hu Dahai turned around, his eyes flickering with ferocity. He pulled out a shell gun from his waist, neatly opened the safety, and slowly walked towards the crowd. Xu Huai's heart beat faster, and sweat unconsciously seeped out of his body. His legs involuntarily trembled because Hu Dahai was staring at him with a gloomy gaze, slowly approaching him. At this moment, it seemed that everyone in the conference room was staring at him, with a mixture of surprise, suspicion, disdain, and ridicule in their eyes. Done. Xu Huai cursed inwardly, stomped his foot, forced his trembling legs to stop, clenched his fists, and was ready for the fight. Suddenly, Hu Dahai took a brisk step and stepped over Xu Huai, putting his gun on Wang Mingliang's head, who was sitting on Xu Huai's right. At this moment, Xu Huai finally breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that his heart, which was about to jump out of his throat, had returned to its original position. Hu Dahai aimed his gun at Wang Mingliang's temple and sneered, "You did a good job in acting. You're really calm. Captain Wang, I have been ordered by the webmaster to arrest you, the Red Party undercover agent Dandelion. Wang Mingliang is the leader of the third group of the action team." His face changed dramatically, gloomy and terrifying, and he sneered, "Dog day Hu Dahai, what's going on? Your eyes see that I'm an undercover agent of the Red Party. Dandelion. Are you joking? This code name hasn't been active for a long time." Xu Huai next to him was surprised, relieved but also somewhat incredulous. Wang Mingliang is from the Red Party. Are there still fewer Red Party members dying under this guy's command? How could he possibly be from the Red Party? Not to mention Xu Huai, others also widened their eyes in disbelief. Saying you means entering the interrogation room and seeing you speak hard. Hu Dahai couldn't help but shout, "Take it down." Immediately, two subordinates of Hu Dahai rushed out from the side, one on the left and one on the right, and one captured and pressed Wang Mingliang onto the table. Wang Mingliang was furious and cursed, "Hu Dahai from Dog Day, you avenge yourself in public. Hard-lipped." Xu Huai put his foot on Wang Mingliang's struggling disorderly leg, and with a thud, Wang Mingliang knelt to the ground, his chin hitting the table, and his face contorted. The captain of the action team, Zhao Junlai, frowned and looked at the station master Zhou Jinglong, whose face was as heavy as water, and said, "Station master. Wang Mingliang is his person, so he naturally does not believe that the other party is an undercover agent of the Red Party." Zhou Jinglong glanced at his secretary Fu Rou. Fu Rou's soft eyes turned and she said in a deep voice, "Just now we checked everyone's rifles, especially the shell gun. Captain Wang, why are your rifles missing 2 bullets and there is still a smell of gunpowder on them? As long as a handgun has been fired, there will be a residual smell of gunpowder for a certain period of time, and the person who fired the gun will also leave a smell of gunpowder on their hands and body. The simplest way to destroy the body is to take a shower and wash clothes. Handguns can also be wiped with alcohol or gun oil to remove traces. You fart, my gun is missing 2 bullets. Is it me who killed it? Can't you do a ballistic test?" Wang Mingliang crouched on the edge of the table, struggling to roar a few times. "All right, let's take it down and lock it up first. We'll talk about it when the results are out." The webmaster Zhou Jinglong had a gloomy face and waved his hand. "Webmaster, me." Wang Mingliang struggled to defend himself, but Xu Huai took out a burlap from somewhere and stuffed it into the other person's mouth, sneering, "Take it away." Watching the person being taken away, Zhao Jun, the captain of the action team, said, "Station master, how has the interrogation been? Have you not confessed yet?" At this point, everyone understands that the webmaster was just a scam. Webmaster Zhou Jinglong raised his eyebrows and said, "You need to find the technical team to do ballistic testing. Old Hu, your people will interrogate Wang Mingliang. Even if it's not him as an undercover agent, you need to figure out where the bullets he's carrying went." He glanced at Lu Guqing and said, "You go to the interrogation room and break through as soon as possible to get the result." Yes. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Goodbye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Goodbye. The torture department is in the basement. Through the dark and damp corridor, crossing several iron gates, we arrived at a dark room. Before I could get close, I heard a mournful scream. In an interrogation room, 2 people sit at their desks. One person looks like a Confucian scholar, with a refined demeanor, while the other has a rough demeanor and a fierce face. These 2 people are the black and white twin demons of the Criminal Investigation Department, Ma Failong and Su Yanghua. Across from the 2, there stood a wooden frame with a pitiful and emaciated man who had already been tortured tied to it. It was Lao Zhao, Zhao Bingyi, the leader of the Red Party in the French concession. At this moment, Lao Zhao was only wearing a pair of shorts, with flesh and skin torn and blood and sweat spreading everywhere. Seeing Lu Guqing and Xu Huai come in, Ma Failong, who was gentle and courteous, exclaimed in surprise, "Why did you come?" The webmaster needs to make quick decisions and get immediate results. Lu Guqing explained a sentence. Ma Failong and Su Yanghua exchanged a glance, and Su Yanghua stood up and said, "It seems that the webmaster is not satisfied with our work. Old Ma, we need to use our skills, otherwise the action team will laugh at us." Ma Failong sneered, "I heard that the Communist Party is all made of steel. Today, I want to see if it's true or false." As he waved his hand, he said, "First, use a soldering iron." A strong man with a bare upper body emerged from the dark corner of the wall, picked up the reddened luo tie burning in the stove, and walked forward, directly sticking it to Lao Zhao's stomach. With a growl, white smoke rolled and oil splattered everywhere, emitting an unpleasant odor. Ah! Lao Zhao let out a scream, heart-wrenching, listening to people's hair chilling. Xu Huai bit his lips, suppressing the sadness in his heart, and a hot current surged in his heart. Thinking of 2 years ago in the inconspicuous basement of that building, it was Lao Zhao who stood under the solemn red flag and led himself to take the oath. I voluntarily joined XXX in China to strictly abide by the discipline of the party, keep party secrets, be loyal to the party, work actively, and be ready to sacrifice everything for the party and the people at any time, never betray the party. I don't want to see you again today, but in this way. Say it or not. Name, place of origin, and address. As long as you say one word, I will immediately stop and let you drink water. Ma Feilong held a lantern and grabbed Lao Zhao's wet hair, only to see a pale face soaked in sweat, with a look of malice and hatred in his eyes. Seeing this kind of gaze, Ma Feilong couldn't help but tremble in his heart, feeling a chill in his heart. Taking a step back, he angrily said, "Keep going, change the bamboo skewers." Xu Huai frowned, feeling inexplicable heartache and distress, but dared not express it. Xu Huai took out a cigarette and scattered it for several people, saying, "Your torture department is really cruel. I look at it so scared." Su Lianghua took the cigarette, lit it, and exhaled a mouthful of smoke, feeling proud. "This is where we go. We used bamboo skewers, but we could use thicker ones, with our fingers connected to our hearts. I don't believe he won't admit it. Even if we carry it over, we can switch to using burnt iron skewers." Ah! At this moment, Lao Zhao's mournful screams came again. One spy grabbed Lao Zhao's hands, while the other held a bamboo stick and axe, nailing it into his nails. Lao Zhao's thin and weak body shrank into a ball, trembling and shouting, leaving only an indomitable will. 10 bamboo sticks were nailed and pulled out again, blood tinged with foam, and the scene was bloody and unbearable. "Head, I've fainted. Do you want to continue?" a spy asked. "Wake up with cold water, I don't believe he won't admit it." Ma Feilong had a gloomy face. Upon hearing these words, Xu Huai felt even more uncomfortable. At this moment, he longed to draw his gun and kill all the executioners, rescuing Lao Zhao. However, he could not, nor could he. "Traitor, damn traitor." Xu Huai gritted his teeth fiercely, and there was a breath in his heart that he couldn't catch his breath. He wants revenge, he wants to find the traitor. "Let's go, Lao Lu, we probably won't be able to play today," Xu Huai pretended to be calm and joked. Lu Giqing's face was gloomy, unsure of what he was thinking. Upon hearing this, he nodded. The two of them left the interrogation room, and in the darkness, a cold wind struck with a chilling chill. Xu Huai shrunk his neck and walked out in the wind. "Have you not confessed yet?" In the webmaster's office, Zhou Jinglong's face was gloomy and he waved his hand with a lackluster expression, saying, "You guys go back first." Coming out of the headquarters of the Secret Service, Xu Huai and Lu Giqing respectively stopped a yellow charter car. Halfway through, Xu Huai stopped the rickshaw and walked slowly in the cold wind alone. His steps were light and resolute, but his heart was filled with immense pain and sadness. At this moment, he wanted to find someone to share his sadness. "Lao Zhao, hold on, I won't let your blood flow in vain. Traitors won't come to a good end." In the French concession apartments, Xu Huai took a sip of turbid wine, lit a cigarette, and sat at the table with a gloomy face, motionless. His eyes turned red and hatred filled the sky. The reason why the Secret Service is able to continuously destroy underground party organizations on a large scale is mainly due to the core role played by individual traitors who are willing to sell their souls. Once a traitor betrays, he will immediately become a crazy enemy, becoming even more brutal than the enemy, because they are afraid of their crimes being known by others and afraid of retaliation. Therefore, they will do everything in their power to eradicate all the Red Party in this area, in order to serve their masters and obtain their own safety. So their madness will not stop. After careful consideration, Xu Huaizi realized that Lao Zhao had been arrested, so the person waiting for him at the meeting place today might be a traitor. But where is this person hiding now? Hu Dehai appeared at the scene, so this person must be in his hands. It seems that we can only start from Hu Dehai. Jingyuan Commercial Office. Zhou Jinglong sat in the boss's chair, looking at Hu Dahai across from him. A hint of satisfaction flashed in his eyes, and he thought of Mr. Dai's evaluation of this person. Being intelligent, able to endure hardships, able to penetrate into lower-level activities, adept at disguising oneself, is a rare expert in breaking into the inner circle. In addition to his own subordinates in the action team, Hu Dahai also has more than 10 informants in control. These people have complex identities, including college students, school teachers, newspaper managers, ballroom socialites, peripheral members of the Democratic Party, thugs from the youth gang, peripheral organizations of the Red Party, police officers, and drivers. So his vision is very broad, he can extend his tentacles to various classes and corners of society. And these eyeliner in his hands can expand his intelligence sources through his colleagues, friends and fellow villagers. Lao Hu, this is for you. Zhou Jinglong's face was full of spring breeze, and he took out a brown wooden box from the drawer, inside which lay 3 golden yellow croakers. With so many people outside, you always have to feed the others. Zhou Jinglong handed out the box and immediately asked, "What are you going to do next?" Hu Dahai smiled deeply on his kind face and said, "Let him go and surrender first. If it doesn't work, let him go out and find someone." Although the Red Party has already moved, the French concession is so big. I don't believe they won't show their face. As long as we take this traitor and arrest people everywhere, they will definitely be unable to resist taking action, and then we can follow suit and catch them all in one go. Zhou Jinglong smiled and said, "There's a bit of the flavor of the Party Affairs Investigation Department, but it's really a good idea." In recent years, the Party Affairs Investigation Department has always considered itself an expert in the Red Party and invited rewards from the committee. The boss has long been dissatisfied. They can catch the Red Party, and our Secret Service can naturally do it. By the way, I have some good news to tell you. I have reported the incident of cracking down on the intelligence station to Boss Dai. Your major promotion order will be issued soon, and your position can also be moved at that time. Thank you, Webmaster. I will definitely follow the Webmaster's instructions and be loyal to him. At this moment, Hu Dahai couldn't help but feel excited. He is loyal to the party in the country, loyal to the leader. Don't worry, as long as we work wholeheartedly for the party and the country, the higher-ups will naturally not treat us unfairly. Watching Hu Dahai show his loyalty, Zhou Jinglong corrected his words and couldn't conceal his satisfaction in his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Traitors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Traitors. Shanghai is a commercial district. Billboards, banks, and real estate companies abound, bringing in and out business elites dressed in suits and shoes. Pedestrians on the streets, men and women, are all dressed neatly, perhaps influenced by the trend, they are accustomed to dressing up more decently. Suddenly, 2 black sedans rushed over, making a piercing brake sound. Several men in Zhongshan suits got off the car, and behind them was a man in a long robe. However, this man covered his head with clothes and couldn't see his appearance clearly. Judging from his attire, he seemed to be a destitute literati. The literati pointed towards the crowd, and 2 men in Zhongshan suit immediately rushed forward like hungry wolves, taking a young man holding a briefcase and a suit and leather shoes hostage. As the young man struggled and shouted, he stuffed him into a sedan, and in front of everyone, he flew away. The pedestrians, business owners, and staff on the street were all dumbfounded, pointing and pointing. Catching people in broad daylight. I heard there is a traitor from the Red Party who has been pointing fingers at underground parties everywhere. How did you know? I also heard people say it. Amidst the crowd's guidance and discussion, the insider smiled proudly, withdrew from the crowd, and quietly left. In the distance, in a car, Hu Dahai held a telescope and sneered, instructing the driver, "Next place." In a coffee shop on the 2nd floor of the commercial district, 2 people were holding coffee and happened to witness everything. The man in gray clothes took off his glasses and wiped them while muttering, "The Secret Service is crazy. I'm afraid others won't know they're catching the Red Party. The man sitting across from him, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, was gentle and elegant. His fair face gave a slight smile and he sneered, "The director is right. Dai Chunfeng likes to act recklessly. The intelligence personnel put on this ugly and popular picture, using plain clothes to replace everything, and what's the use of intelligence technology?" The man in grey put on his glasses and pursed his lips, saying, "I heard that Dai Chunfeng went to Chang'an alone and won the favor of the old man. Nowadays, he has more and more part-time jobs, such as anti-smuggling, taxation, and water police. One mountain cannot tolerate two tigers, and he has been causing us a lot of trouble during this period." The man in the suit didn't take it seriously and said, with Mr. Chen and Mr. Su standing up, "Why are we worried about this? I heard that the Secret Service recently cracked down on an underground party intelligence station, and the old man was very happy. He felt that not only our party investigation department could catch the Red Party, but also Dai Chunfeng. This clearly indicates that they are trying to seize our 1 acre and 3/4 of land, so the director gave a stern order to all our users to move, activate all cells, and strive to play a big game. Okay, I'll arrange it later." The men at the meeting were full of confidence. These two people are the chief and deputy leaders of the intelligence team of the Shanghai Party Affairs Investigation Department. Lu Yasi and Luo Boyan. Although both the Party Investigation Office and the Secret Service Office are under the jurisdiction of the Investigation and Statistics Bureau of the Military Commission, with clear division of labor on the surface, they are actually engaged in fierce competition between the two. Compared to the Special Affairs Office, which focuses on military affairs, the Party Investigation Department is more inclined towards party affairs, so it has always claimed to be an expert in the Red Party. They do have a system in cracking down on the Red Party. Firstly, in terms of internal construction, they put all their most skilled spies into the struggle of the Red Party. In the research of the Red Party, it is also at a higher level than the Secret Service. Compared to Dai Chunfeng's talk about the Red Revolution, the Party Affairs Investigation Department organizes small and large special agents to study red books and magazines, focusing on researching techniques to persuade surrender. The interrogation of arrested members of the Red Party generally adopts a reasoning approach, theoretically undermining the beliefs of the Red Party and forcing them to defect. This is in line with the frequent torture and confession by the Secret Service, and even the fact that Dai Chunfeng personally stepped down, standing high and low. In terms of the use of traitors, the methods are also different from those of the Secret Service. Once they discover grassroots members of the Red Party, they will first resort to luring and threatening them to complete their secret confession, cultivate them into their own cells, and then let them return to the Red Party to achieve the goal of fishing for big fish with long lines. Shanghai University. A middle-aged man in his 40s watched as a spy kidnapped a young teacher into a car, frowned, turned around, and went upstairs into an office. Inside, at the window stood an elegant old man, gazing at the distant spy as if pondering something. Upon hearing the sound of the door opening, I turned my head and glanced at the door, gesturing for the other person to sit down. "Old song, when has it been? You're still so calm. The spies are catching people everywhere during the day, and we must take action to show them some color." The middle-aged man is emotionally agitated. The old man who called Lao Song remained calm and poured a glass of water for the middle-aged man. He calmly said, "Lao Zhang, don't get excited. The more we are at this time, the more we need to remain calm. Killing people cannot solve the problem, nor is it our party's principle. The top priority is to figure out exactly where the problem is." Lao Zhang placed the cup on the table and angrily said, "Calm down, you make me calm down. How can I calm down? I suggest calling out the red team and giving them some color to see." Upon hearing these words, Old Song's expression was solemn and displeased as he said, "The red team is anti-traitors, not assassins." After losing his momentum, Lao Zhang remained silent for a moment and continued, "You can't just wait like this. Old Song softened his expression and said in a deep voice, "You just arrived, and I happen to report a situation to you. Our intelligence station in the French concession was destroyed by the Secret Service, and the specific situation is unknown. In addition, Comrade Zhao Bingyi, who is responsible for the work of the French Concession Working Committee, has temporarily lost contact. The situation is very unfavorable to us. At this time, the most important thing is stability. Please notify us of the necessary moves and transfers, and immediately activate the second emergency plan." Lao Zhao. Lao Zhang frowned and said, "Could it be that Lao Zhao defected? In that case, the French concession should quickly activate the isolation mechanism. Comrade Zhang Duran, compared to the enemy, we should trust our comrades even more. Before the results come out, we should not easily deny any comrades, and of course, we will not let any traitors go." Old Song said in a deep voice. "Okay, I got it." Watching Lao Zhang leave the door, Old Song frowned. In the face of a huge disparity in power between the enemy and us, in covert struggles, emotions and blind impulses would only pay a greater price. This is a summary of historical lessons. Huajie, Shanghai Police Investigation Brigade. Office of Lu Kuei, Deputy Captain of the Investigation Brigade and Director of the Special Operations Department. Due to restrictions imposed by the concession authorities, police, gendarmes, and spies are not allowed to arrest people in the concession at will. Therefore, this is the favorite place for spies from the Special Affairs Office, as Lu Kuei is a member of Boss Dai. Lu Kuei was in his early 30s, with dark skin and a face full of bitter hatred. At this moment, he looked at the Red Party, captured by Wu Yangyang, and furrowed his brows even deeper. He glared at Xu Huai with oblique eyes and said, "What's going on? There are so many Red Party members." Xu Huai smiled unfathomably and said, "Don't worry, I won't make you difficult. I'll lock you up for a few days. The trial that needs to be reviewed and the release that needs to be released will inevitably benefit you." Benefits. Lu Kuei sneered, and he naturally knew what Xu Huai was paying attention to. He said displeasedly, "Shanghai is too complicated. Capturing people is not related to the Qinghong gang, but rather to the relatives of this director and that department head. Some people are very astute, and if they catch people who shouldn't be caught, they might call Boss Dai from Jinling soon. I advise you to be more cautious. Don't worry, I have my own concerns." Xu Huai didn't take it seriously. With the endorsement of the webmaster and Mr. Dai, he could do nothing about it in his spare time. Xu Huai entered the courtyard of the detective brigade and saw several black cars parked haphazardly in the yard, with several undercover agents squatting or leaning on them to smoke. A head peeked out from the middle car, with a worried expression, pleading, "You guys, can we go back today? We've been catching people all morning. Does anyone really believe in acting like this?" The smoking spy sneered, "I can't handle this matter, it depends on Captain Hu." At this point, the spy frowned and rebuked, "Who told you to take off your clothes? Cover them up. Bullets don't have eyes. You traitors, the Red Party hates you more than us." The middle-aged man ignored the sarcasm in the spy's tone, sighed a few times, then withdrew and covered his head with his clothes. After all, he was afraid of death. Without traitors, there would be no ears and eyes, and without traitors, there would be no achievements. This is a common saying among the Secret Service agents. They need traitors, but they also look down on them from the bottom of their hearts. Xu Huai calmly observed all of this and quickly took note of the person's appearance, stepping into the investigation team. He came to find Lu Guqing today. Lu Guqing's public identity is that of a police officer from the investigation brigade of the police department. Xu Huai was moved when he heard that the detective team had seized several radios. Although this thing is expensive, it can be used as a radio receiver, and after modification, it can also be used for sending newspapers. Furthermore, these radios are all American products, and even on the black market, they can be sold at a good price. Money makes things easier. Boss Dai once said that in order to engage in intelligence, especially in underground activities, in addition to the practical chapters of his ancestors, The Art of War, the main focus is to master how to interact with people, cater to their interests, understand their psychological needs, and gain trust to obtain the intelligence they need. In short, doing espionage work and collecting intelligence does not necessarily require the use of skills, but rather, Xu Huai believes in being good at being a person and doing things, and gaining insight into the world. But now that he saw the traitor, Xu Huai couldn't wait for a moment. After chatting with Lu Guqing for a while, he hurriedly came out. If only there were a sniper rifle. Xu Huai glanced at the three-story building opposite the detective team, feeling powerless and sighing. The most important thing now is to follow the members of the action team, find the traitor's residence, and then secretly lay the assassin. After leaving the detective team, Xu Huai felt a thump in his heart. Because under the street lamp on the opposite side, there was an extra shoeshine at some point, and outside the grocery store, there was a smoking man with half of his body hidden behind a pillar. It seemed like there was also an extra car. Is it the Red Party's anti-traitor team or the monitoring point set up by Xu Huai? Xu Huai didn't dare to be careless, passed by quietly, bypassed several streets, found no one following him, and turned around again. At this moment, 3 or 2 black cars slowly drove out of the investigation team. Just as the car was about to turn, a rickshaw driver on the street suddenly stood up, pushed the rickshaw in front of the sedan, pulled out a pistol, and fired. The driver suddenly braked, and the people in the vehicle were jolted hard. Before they could react, the shoemaker took out a pistol from the wooden box in front of him and raised his hand to hit. Bang, bang, raindrops of bullets pierced through the window glass, and the agents were shot and fell. At this moment, the man hiding behind the pillar smoking suddenly rushed out, and the 3 of them approached the second car from 3 directions. Bang, bang, the bullet hit the car, but this time it didn't have the same effect, indicating that it was a bulletproof vehicle. Leave a living mouth. The third car suddenly turned and stopped diagonally in the middle of the road. Xu Huai and a few people used the car as cover and quickly counterattacked. Bullets flew horizontally for a moment, and the scene was chaotic and chaotic. Bang, a bullet hit the rickshaw puller, causing him to tremble and fall to the ground. Lao Hu. The other 2 people shouted anxiously, but there was no response at all. They couldn't help but feel anxious, and the attack became even more intense. Suddenly, a whistle sounded, and a large number of armed personnel from the investigation team rushed out. Long and short guns fought back, suppressing the attack from the opposite side for a while. Seeing that something was impossible, the shoeshine shouted, "Withdraw," took out a grenade from behind his waist, and threw it away, fighting back while retreating. Bang, amidst the smoke and dust, the car parked not far suddenly rushed over, and the person in the co-pilot fired back while greeting his companions to board the car. Bang, a bullet pierced the shoemaker from the back, causing him to stumble and fall to the ground. The man who had previously smoked ignored bullets and fought back while dragging Big Lu forward. With the cover of the co-pilot, he finally got on the car. The car emitted a piercing roar and sped away. Xu Huai waved his hand and let his men chase after him, without even looking at the person in the first car. He kicked the rickshaw driver lying on the ground and sneered, "Check, find out his true identity." "Yes." A subordinate nodded respectfully and ordered people to lift the body away. Xu Huai hid in the crowd at the corner of the wall, feeling sorry in his heart, and a killing intent flashed through his eyes. Traitor, Xu Huai. In his view, the traitor must be eliminated, and this extremely dangerous and cunning Xu Huai must also be eliminated quickly. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Sacrifice, Recommended Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Sacrifice, Recommended Collection. Xu Huai was hiding in the crowd. Just as he was about to leave, he saw a middle-aged man with a clear appearance and outstanding temperament slowly exiting the crowd. Accompanied by a servant wearing a hat and looking like a butler, he quickly left. Xu Huai squinted her eyes, but did not follow suit. She hid her figure in the dark corner of the wall, coldly watching everything happening in the field. At this moment, a person got off the bulletproof car and whispered a few words to Xu Huai, and the two cars started again. Xu Huai stopped a taxi from the road and instructed the driver to follow slowly behind. The taxi is a Ford with the advertisement Yinfei Company printed on it. It is currently one of the largest taxi companies in Shanghai, with over 200 cars and over 600 employees. The taxi driver was wearing a gray suit, a woolen duckbill cap, and a pair of sharp eyes. After driving for more than 10 minutes, he saw the two cars in front of him slowing down and asked, "Sir, what should I do?" "Accelerate and rush over, take a fork in the road." Xu Huai lowered the brim of his hat, pulled open the curtains on the car, and saw Xu Huai and others park the car in front of a hospital from a distance. Edward Hospital. After finishing a phone call, Xu Huai gave a mysterious smile and looked at his stunned subordinates beside him, scolding, "What are you waiting for? Don't let the doctor save you. Save someone. Leader, who can we save? Zhang Tianwu and those others are all dead. Of course it's to save the Red Party. Red Party, Kuren is already dead, no matter how hard he tries to save this." Seeing the bewildered look on his subordinates, Xu Huai didn't explain and impatiently waved his hand, saying in a daze, "If I ask you to go, you can go. There's no such nonsense. Go find a doctor. If they don't want to, you know what to do." In a residential area in Huajie, a doctor in a white coat is helping an injured person examine their condition. He looks at the patient's attire and appears to be a shoeshine. On a cold day, the doctor's forehead was covered in sweat. He wiped the sweat off his sleeve, frowned, and looked at the two people who were watching closely beside him. He sighed, "The injury is too serious. The bullet has penetrated the lungs. If he doesn't take the hospital in time, he probably won't have much time." The burly man standing by the bed, his eyes red and tears welling up in an instant. With a thud, he knelt down on the ground and pleaded. "Doctor, I apologize to you. I shouldn't have forced you with a gun just now. I begged you to save him. He is my brother who killed for Japanese devils in northeast China. His own revenge is not over yet. I begged you." The doctor remained unmoved and sighed helplessly, "I am a doctor and also a Chinese. There is a truth to not save someone from death, but he was injured too badly." At this moment, a rapid sound of footsteps rang out, and a man dressed as a servant pushed the door in and urgently said, "Sing team, Black Dog is chasing us. What should we do?" The man beside the bed who remained silent flashed with determination on his face, pulled out his pistol, and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Wu, you and Lao Chen will cover up for the doctor to take the Lu to the hospital, and I will distract the enemy. Don't listen to me." At this moment, the Lu, lying in bed, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and struggled to get up. Beans of sweat, as big as beans, instantly rained down on his forehead, and the blood from his chest gushed out like tap water that had broken through the gate. The Lu. A few people were anxious and helpless. "Listen to me, I can't do it anymore. Take this doctor and retreat quickly. Leave me a grenade. This is an order." Struggling to finish his intermittent words, Big Lu suddenly gasped like a deflated ball, lying down weakly with only a pair of surprisingly bright eyes. The man who had just knelt down and was called Old Chen, pulled out his shell gun from his waist, took out a few bullets from his pocket, and pressed them into the magazine. He was furious and said, "I'll go fight them." "Stop. Didn't you hear De Lu's order? I'm the deputy captain, I ordered to transfer immediately." Zheng's tone was resolute, he stuffed a grenade into Big Lu's hand, pulled Old Chen and gestured for Xiao Wu to take the doctor with him. He gave Big Lu a reluctant glance and hurriedly left. A few people had just left when they heard a loud bang. The door of the room was knocked over by someone, and several plainclothes and police officers rushed in. The first plainclothes leader stepped forward to touch De Lu, his eyebrows lit up, and he said, "Still alive, take him to the hospital." From his invisible perspective, De Lu suddenly struggled to pull the grenade under him, only to hear a loud roar, black smoke rolling in billowing air. Xu Huai went to many places today. He disguised himself and went to the French concession, British concession, North Station, and Huajie. He went to many shops, grocery stores, and black markets, bringing back cardboard boxes, explosives, mercury, copper wire, and special insulation tape. He didn't go back to the apartment in the French concession, but instead went to another safe house, Huiyanli. This is an old alley, or can be called a alley. The tiger skylight appears quiet and obedient under the delicate winter sun, while the roses on the windowsill are in full bloom, the white clothes on the sun-drying platform are swinging in the cold wind, and the seaweed in the cracks of the mountain wall is growing tenaciously. It is dilapidated, quiet, but filled with the smell of fireworks. Mr. Wang has known returned from a business trip. Aunt Song, who was knitting a sweater at the entrance of the alley, asked and eagerly stared at the suitcase in Xu Huai's hand. The old man Jia, lying on the rocking chair sunbathing, old and tired, squinted his eyes and stared at Xu Huai before continuing to doze off. Tofu Shishir was wearing a coarse cloth qipao, with a slender waist stretched out. She peeked out of the window and continued to use tongs to perm her hair. Xu Huai walked slowly through the hallway and up to the second floor. At this moment, a mischievous man came out from the next door, staring straight at Xu Huai. This person's name is Lu Pingyuan, but he is not safe for a moment. He eats, drinks, gambles, and sneaks around, which is something he doesn't know. Lu Pingyuan was wearing a coarse cloth short shirt, sleeves rolled up high, and wearing cloth shoes. He was holding a Camel brand cigarette in his mouth, revealing several large yellow teeth. He said mysteriously, "Mr. Wang, it's quite mysterious. I've seen him once since you moved here. Where is Mr. Wang?" Mystery is not a good label. Xu Huai sneered from the bottom of his heart. It seemed like he was moving again or getting rid of the annoying guy in front of him. Xu Huai was too lazy to bother with this guy. He pushed him aside and took out the key to open the door. Then Lu Pingyuan continued, "You're not a spy, are you?" "Oh," Xu Huai turned around and saw a proud face. "I have seen you in the French concession with a police officer." Lu Pingyuan smiled proudly and said, "At least I, Lu Pingyuan, am also a well-known bag in Shanghai. It's not surprising that I know Mr. Wang's situation." "You know enough. What you shouldn't know. Have you considered the consequences?" Xu Huai turned around and opened the door, placing the box on the ground. His eyes fell into the house where dust was floating under the sunlight. Just as he was about to step in with one foot, he heard Lu Pingyuan continue, "Detective, it's just right that we can get rich together." "Oh, are you not afraid that I am Japanese?" "Japanese?" Lu Pingyuan trembled for a moment, his eyes dodging, and his mouth stiffening. "I'm not afraid of Japanese either. As long as I give money, who will do it for?" "That's right," Xu Huai sneered. Suddenly, a person approached and pinched Lu Pingyuan's thin and black neck, his cold gaze making him tremble. Until Lu Pingyuan's old face turned blue and purple, he finally let go and said, "Just say something." "Wang Wanga, I knew you were a spy. I want to report it. A new family has arrived on the right side of the alley, and I suspect it's an underground party." Lu Pingyuan said and nodded seriously. "Red Party. How do you know?" "They have the 3 words Red Party written on their faces." "Hey, I don't recognize it even though it's written." "Since you know it's the Red Party, why don't you report it?" "Why are you looking for me?" "Wang, talking about this makes me angry. I told Wang Motzi, but that guy doesn't believe me. What can I do?" "Who is Wang Motzi?" "The secret agent of the Ministry of Works in the French concession, like Brother Wang, is so stingy that I don't even borrow money." Xu Huai finally understood. This guy had been beating around the bush for a while, waiting for him here. He squinted his eyes and said, "Do you have any evidence to say he's a Red Party member?" "That's not true, but this person is too strange. He stays at home all day and keeps the curtains closed in broad daylight. Sneaky, by the way, I found a gun hidden under his bed. Mysterious and armed." Xu Huai asked calmly, "Who else knows about this matter?" "He, I understand the rules of the industry, so far you know." Xu Huai scrutinized Lu Pinyin and said, "Okay, from now on, you keep an eye on him. If you're sure he's a member of the Red Party, the benefits won't be less than yours." "Okay. Lu Pinyin rubbed his hands happily and left happily. Closing the door, Xu Huai's expression darkened a bit. "However, there are priorities, and the top priority is to eliminate the traitor first. I don't know how Lao Zhao is doing." Thinking of Lao Zhao, Xu Huai's heart was filled with waves. Welcome to Invest in New Books, and also seek collection and recommendation. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Eliminating Traitors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Eliminating Traitors. In the hospital ward, Xu Huai sat by the bed, watching the patient being rescued with a mysterious smile. He never treats the Red Party as fools, but sometimes they are stubborn and terrifying. This stubbornness will earn them respect and also make them die. Has it been arranged yet? Xu Huai turned his back to his body and asked silently. The man hidden in the darkness behind him sniffled and said, "Leader, we have intentionally leaked this information in the social news section of a civilian newspaper as per your request, but will the Red Party come? What do you think? If they don't come to save their comrades fighting side by side, then they're not the Red Party anymore." Xu Huai smiled confidently and secretly felt proud of the bait he had set up for himself. He has already communicated with the webmaster, and this time, except for his own subordinates, he will not use anyone in the station to prevent leaks. In order to carry out this operation, he mobilized a battalion of special agents from the Songhu Garrison Command through the station master, and has already laid a trap at a stronghold in the bank building on Fuxi Road in the French concession. Captain Zheng remained silent as he looked at the newspaper in front of him, which clearly stated that the authorities had discovered a group of bandits attempting to riot at the entrance of the investigation team today. Several people were killed and one person was injured. The injured person had recovered their vital signs after rescue and was willing to cooperate with the authorities to apprehend the bandit leader. Old Hu will never betray, these black dogs know how to slander, humph. Old Chen couldn't contain himself and patted the table with a bang. He looked at Captain Zhang and said, "Since Old Hu is alive, we must rescue him. Can it be a trap?" Xiao Wu muttered weakly. Staring at Xiao Wu, Old Chen paced anxiously and said, "Whether it's a trap or not, we must make sure that Lao Hu is alive or dead and bring him back. Do you agree or not?" "I agree," Xiao Wu secretly glanced at Captain Zhang and replied weakly. How to say now, Lao Zheng, the minority obeys the majority. Captain Zheng slowly stood up, lit a cigarette, took a puff, and in the darkness, a crimson beam flickered and burned, illuminating his dark face with varying shades. "Are you talking now?" "Help, I also agree to save people, but this is likely a trap set by the enemy. Everything is too coincidental, so we cannot force it, we can only rely on intelligence. Wisdom. What's your good idea?" Captain Zheng glanced at the restless and irritable Old Chen and smiled slightly. At 9 o'clock in the evening. Suddenly, 3 people arrived at the hospital entrance, to be precise, 2 carrying a patient lying on a stretcher. These 2 people are wearing white coats, masks, rubber gloves, and fully armed. Wang Meng and Lu Hu, who were on duty at the door, exchanged a glance and swiftly pulled the bolt of their pistol. The bolt made a cold metallic sound in the night. The 2 of them carried their pistols behind them and approached, asking, "What are you doing?" A white coat said, "Get out of the way, leper." Upon hearing this, Wang Meng and Lu Hu couldn't help but tremble for a moment, and their steps unconsciously withdrew. I forgot to check for a moment and watched as my white coat entered the hospital. Lao Lu, what should we do? There won't be any trouble, will there? Wang Meng is a bit uneasy. What's going on? The team leader said, only allowed in and not allowed out. Besides, do you dare to check for leprosy? Being infected with this disease is more difficult than dying. I heard that being infected with this disease can make you ugly, turning into lion's face, rabbit's eye, and claws. Upon hearing this, Wang Meng felt a sense of unease and trembling as he glanced at the distant doctor, feeling a chill in his heart. At this moment, another person appeared, seemingly a postman, slowly holding a box and holding a cake with oil paper as the base. Seeing the person coming clearly, Wang suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and asked, "What are you doing?" The postman's ugly face was a bit blurry and uncertain under the dim yellow light, and he hoarsely said, "Is Mr. Xu Huai here?" Wang and Lu glanced at each other, their hands holding the guns tightened a bit. One in front of the other behind, instantly surrounded the postman and asked sternly, "How do you know that Officer Hu is here?" Isn't he here? It was Mr. Zhou who asked me to deliver it, saying it was Mr. Hu's birthday and that he had worked hard. What should I do? The postman scratched his head anxiously. Mr. Zhou. The two of them exchanged a glance and thought to themselves, is it Mr. Zhou? I didn't hear that today is the birthday of team leader Hu. The two were surprised and uncertain. The postman placed the gift on the ground, hunched down, and took out a receipt, saying, "The things have been delivered. Both of you, sign your names so that I can go back and pay the bill." Lu Hu frowned and took the pen to write down his name, cursing and saying, "So troublesome." But the tone relaxed. "Cake, handle it gently. The gentleman instructed me to personally hand it over to General Hu." The postman chattered on. "All right, I got it. There's so much nonsense." Lu Hu impatiently waved his hand. The postman didn't worry at all, bowed respectfully and carefully, then turned around and left. Leprosy patients. Are you sure? Xu Huai was sitting in an open ward, observing the outside movement through the curtains when suddenly a subordinate came to report. Team leader, I don't know the specifics, and the doctor on duty at the hospital can't confirm either. However, that person is ugly and smelly, and looks scary, so everyone dare not approach. Xu Huai pondered for a moment and said in a cold voice, "Find a ward to make them look like you're not allowed to leave." Yes. Watching his subordinates leave, Xu Huai felt something was wrong and left the room, knocking on the opposite ward. Looking at the restless traitor in the darkness, he disdainfully said, "Wang Pan, what are you panicking about? I've already arranged it. Now I'm waiting for the red party to take the bait. If I have time to think recklessly, why not think about how to get back inside the red party? Worthless people are not respected here with me." Xu Huai sneered, and as soon as he closed the door, he saw Lu Meng walking over with a smile on his face, carefully holding a cardboard box in his hand. There was also a cake on the cardboard box mountain. "Team leader, happy birthday." Lu Meng fawned and saw Xu Huai's puzzled gaze, explaining, "Leader, this is the cake that the webmaster ordered for you." "I don't know the leader either." Before he could finish speaking, Xu Huai's face suddenly changed. He took a few steps back and scolded, "What's inside the box? Hurry up, throw it out, throw it into the yard." Xu Huai knew in his heart that today was not his birthday at all, and the webmaster wouldn't just be idle and give him a cake, so this must be a conspiracy of the Red Party, maybe it's just a bomb inside. Seeing Lu Meng still looking dull and not turning around, he sternly scolded, "Bastard, I don't listen either. Maybe it's a bomb inside." Bomb. Lu Meng trembled all over, feeling as if his hands weighed 1,000 pounds. At this moment, a burst of gunshots could be heard not far away. Xu Huai was both surprised and delighted, as the Red Party finally arrived. The gunshots rang out, and Lu Meng's heart trembled. His already trembling hands trembled even more violently. The next moment, he only heard a loud bang, and the cardboard box exploded instantly. Lu Meng's flesh and blood flew wildly, and Xu Huai was also lifted up by the huge waves of air. In a daze, a blurry figure flashed past. With a hiss, something fell to the ground with a thud. The next moment, the figure walked up to him, holding a pistol with a silencer in his hand. The gunshots rang out, and Xu Huai lost consciousness forever. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Spy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Spy, Bang, Shanghai District Station Master's Office. A beautiful porcelain bottle shattered into thin pieces. Webmaster Zhou Zhenglong is like a raging lion, with hands akimbo and a gloomy and terrifying expression on his face. The captain of the action team, Zhao Junlai, who was standing at the bottom, was known for his rebelliousness and dared not provoke the station master's tiger power at this moment. The head of the intelligence department, Chen Mingli, shrank his head and whispered, "Someone lit firecrackers near the hospital," which caught the attention of most people. The bomb suddenly exploded again, and the scene was very chaotic. I didn't even notice how the killer escaped. However, the three individuals who appeared in the final firefight were suspected to be the Red Party who had engaged in a confrontation with the action group that day. They successfully hid in the hospital under the pretext of treating leprosy patients and launched a sudden attack in the chaos. Don't talk about these useless things. A fully armed platoon can't even catch 3 or 4 bandits, are you a loser? Well, Webmaster, the situation was chaotic at the time and it wasn't a direct battlefield. Chen Mingli looked helpless. Humph, this Xu Huai is also too careless, idiot. By the way, besides leprosy patients, do you think anyone else is sending cakes to Xu Huai under my name? Yes, there is also a box with the cake, and they dare not inspect it either. Can you pinpoint the source of the bomb? The bomb has already detonated and is estimated to be hanging. We can only wait for the results of the technical investigation. Humph, there's not a useful word after all. Zhou Zhang's dragon face sank like water, and just at noon, Xu Huai vowed to completely capture the Red Party. Unexpectedly, this happened at night, and he didn't know how to explain it to Boss Dai. Taking a glance at Zhao Junlai, who was standing silently below, he frowned and said, "Old Zhao, what do you think? Xu Huai is a member of your action team, and you don't know anything about this." Zhao Junlai's face was calm like the surface of a pond, without any ripples, and he said in a deep voice, "I really don't know about this. But deep down in my heart, I'm sneering and even a little happy. Do you still know that Xu Huai is my person? It's not like you buried a nail in the action team. Now that there's a problem, it reminds me of Laozi. Humph, I can also be considered an old man following Boss Dai. There have been 4 new station managers at the Shanghai station, and he is still a colonel captain. Who can I argue with? Wait for the appointment of the deputy webmaster of Laozi, and then we will fight against you. However, Zhou Zhenglong didn't want to let him go so easily and continued, "Lao Zhao, this matter is probably related to undercover agents. At this critical moment, if the authorities know that there is a Red Party undercover agent lurking in our Shanghai station, let the boss see how we are. Alright, you will be fully responsible for handling the follow-up matters. I will have the intelligence, telecommunications, and general affairs departments fully cooperate with you." "This matter is settled," Zhou Zhenglong said as Zhao Junlai was about to defend himself. Zhou Zhenglong shook his hand and left. As he walked to the door, he suddenly said in a cold voice, "If the person surnamed Xiao in the interrogation room still doesn't confess, we'll just deal with him." At the same time, at a stronghold in the bank building on Fuxi Road in the French concession, a few members of Zhang's team have treated their wounds and are sitting to rest. Old Chen took a puff of smoke and suddenly said, "Old Zhang, who exactly are you saying you helped us with?" "It was setting off firecrackers and making bombs." After killing 2 people, you left calmly. This means. After loosening the bandage on his arm, Zeng thought for a moment and said, I don't know, but this person is a master. Today is considered lucky, otherwise he would have been trapped in so many people's ambushes, with no return. Thinking about it would have made him feel a bit scared. Old Chen was somewhat skeptical and said, they are just some soldiers who can suppress us in firepower. It's not that easy to catch us. Zeng Tin stared at the words and hesitated, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Xu Huai got off the yellow carriage not far from Huiyanli and had already taken off his disguise and changed into a new outfit. As Xu Huai watched the yellow carriage leave, he pulled out a dark M1910 from his waist and chuckled lightly. Of course, this gun belonged to Xu Huai. Passing through the alley entrance and entering the alley, Xu Huai paid special attention to the house mentioned by Lu Pingyan. The windows were closed, the curtains were drawn, and only a faint halo could be seen. Obviously, the owner of the house has not rested yet. This person lives in a small courtyard, with a door inserted and translucent. The courtyard is pitch black and surprisingly quiet. Without knowing what was inside, Xu Huai dared not startle the snake with grass. He quietly retreated and walked into the alley. Entering the alley, it was already pitch black. Xu Huai searched for a feeling and walked all the way to the 2nd floor. Just as he was about to open the door, he thought about stopping at Lu Pingyan's doorstep and lightly tapped a few times. Who is it? After a few sounds, Lu Pingyan's suspicious voice came through. Then there was a faint sound of footsteps, and Xu Huai's heart moved to see the door open. In the dim light, a woman in pajamas leaned against the door, with heavy makeup and red lips, and a hint of alcohol. The woman had her hair draped over her, half of her breasts leaking out, her drunken eyes hazy, her thighs bare, her feet bare, and her charming face exuding a gust of dust. She leaned against the door, lit a thin long cigarette, exhaled a cigarette ring, and coquettishly said, Sir, look for that. Lu Pingyan. Xu Huai took a step back and uttered a few words. Mr. Wang. Lu Pingyan asked in confusion, and then a sparse sound of dressing echoed inside the room. In a moment, he saw Lu Pingyan wearing shoes and coming out with pants in hand. Brother Wang, it's so late. Lu Pingyan yawned and saw the woman staring straight at Xu Huai. He slapped the woman on the buttocks and scolded, Go in, let's talk about something. What's up with you? The woman rolled her eyes, twisted her waist, and walked into the room. From a distance, she said, I haven't given you the money yet, you bastard. I can't do without you. Lu Pingyan said and closed the door. What is the current situation with that family? Lu Pingyan was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly realized and whispered, Hey, look at my brain. I've been watching all afternoon. In the evening, a woman came and left, but she hasn't come out yet. Xu Huai frowned, Woman. Why is there another woman? The light in this person's room is on, and it is likely that they have not rested yet. The other person has a gun, so it is obvious that they cannot engage in a frontal confrontation. Xu Huai glanced at Lu Pingyan and asked, Where did this woman come from? He, Lu Pingyan gave a lewd smile. The little white dove from Cuihong Tower has a first-class posture. If Brother Wang wants to, I'll offer it on my own. Xu Huai was speechless as she showed no interest in a fireworks woman. She took out a few fiat coins and handed them over, saying, We'll have a performance later. Lu Pingyan's face lit up as he saw 2 tens, 120, and 150 yuan bills. He stuffed his head into his pocket and enthusiastically said, Acting. You know, even if it's going down the mountain of swords and the sea of fire, Lu Pingyan, won't frown. Xu Huai was speechless in his heart, beckoning him closer and whispering a few words to Lu Pingyan. At the entrance of the alley, on the 2nd floor of the house, a man in his 30s with an ordinary face was lying on the bed in his clothes, pondering deeply. He didn't expect someone to sneak into his room just a few days after he arrived here. Although there was nothing missing, there was still a hint of unease in his heart. Today he has reported this matter to his superiors, and he believes there will be results soon. He also believes that the neighbor who sneaked into his room must be nearby. He looked at the time and it was already 10:30 p.m. He got up and was about to turn off the lights when suddenly there was a loud bang at the door, followed by a woman's scream. "Lu Pingyan, you scoundrel, naughty, you must die easily. Lu Pingyan, please let go." Bang, there was another loud noise, as if someone was kicking the door. The man's face changed, he jumped up from the bed, tiptoed to the ground, took out the pistol stuck under the bed, quickly pulled down the drawstring to turn off the light, came to the window, and looked through the gap in the curtains. It was pitch black outside, and I couldn't see anything clearly, but the noise was getting louder and louder. Lu Pingyan. The man had a cold gleam in his eyes and stood still. "Lu Pingyan, you dead ghost, give me money, old lady. I'll fight with you." "Pa, bang, Lu Pingyan, you little red guy, don't sleep at night, don't be fooled. Lu Pingyan, you little brat." Now the neighbors are all awake, the lights are on, and one by one, the windows are open, cursing loudly. The sound echoed back and forth in the lonely night. "Stinky bitch, dare to steal my money and even run here, saying, is this where your accomplice is hidden?" Upon hearing these words, the man standing behind the curtains frowned, thinking that he had accidentally bumped into the door during an argument, but now it seemed that he was coming towards him. The man pondered for a moment, then pinned his gun into his waist, opened the door, and went downstairs to the yard. He cursed, "What are you doing? You don't even let anyone sleep at night. Open the door, did you and this bitch collude to steal my money? Bang, can't turn it on, if I don't turn it on again, I'll go call the police." Upon hearing the alarm, the man's eyebrows furrowed even deeper and he shouted, "Here we go." He picked up a stick from the side, opened the door, and took a few steps back. He saw the men and women torn together at the door, disheveled and disheveled. He became wary and approached, saying, "I don't even know this woman, why?" As soon as he spoke, a black figure flashed past him. The man thought to himself that something was wrong. He was about to raise his stick to fight back, but the black figure was as fast as lightning, locking his throat. At the same time, he lifted his leg and hit him in the abdomen. A knife hit him in the neck, and in the moment before he fell into a coma, he didn't even see the person's appearance. The person who made the move was naturally Xu Huai. He gently placed the unconscious man on the ground and glanced at the two men and women who were already stunned in place. He said coldly, "It's none of your business here, go back." But who dares to reveal this today? Humph. Under Xu Huai's cold eyes, Lu Pingyan trembled and cursed inwardly, saying in a panic, "Mr. Wang, don't worry." After speaking, he hurriedly pulled the little white dove and left without hesitation. Xu Huai dragged the person into the hospital, closed the door, frowned. This direct confrontation was just a last resort, but time didn't wait. If he didn't handle it himself, greedy Lu Pingyan would betray the person again. A rogue's mischievous words cannot be trusted, and this person lives in seclusion every day. It is not easy to infiltrate the investigation, although there are some hidden dangers, they are still within the acceptable range. Xu Huai touched the man and found a pistol, a Southern 14 pistol, with a slightly cold gaze. This gun, commonly known as the Wang Ba box, can hold 8 bullets and is equipped in the Japanese military. Is it a Japanese spy? Xu Huai didn't dare to be careless, so he found a rope to tie his hands and feet and stuffed burlap into his mouth before turning around and going upstairs. Under the light, the room revealed its true appearance, with the floor, simple tables and chairs, a stove, a small bookshelf, and a slightly messy bed. The overall impression is simple and tidy. Glancing around the room, Xu Huai paced slowly, paying attention to all the decorations inside, attempting to discover any clues. There was nothing on the bookshelf or bed, and Xu Huai lay down and glanced under the bed, pulling out an iron basin. Inside the basin was a pile of burnt ashes and paper scraps, devoid of any value. He set his gaze once again on the floor, stomping his feet on the ground, not leaving any corner behind. Dong, finally, a hollow sound could be heard from the wall under the window. Xu Huai knelt down on one knee and carefully looked around. He saw a gap in the middle of the floor, with small scratches and burrs on the edge of the gap, indicating that it had been opened. He pulled out the dagger, inserted it into the gap, and dragged it outward, revealing a 10-centimeter-sized hole under the floor, inside which lay a dark green transmitter. After careful observation, Xu Huai saw that there were no traps set up. He gently took out the radio station, which was a 15-watt radio station with a transmission distance of only a few hundred miles. Xu Huai didn't know who this person was in contact with. There is a spy named Wei Daming who invented a small 5-watt radio station in 33 years. Apart from batteries and headphones, it is only the size of an ice cream, but unfortunately, the transmission distance is only a few tens of kilometers, so it cannot be equipped on a large scale. Xu Huai checked the transmitter and smiled slightly, deepening his doubts about the identity of this person as a Japanese spy. He just couldn't figure out why this person was not staying in the Japanese concession or the gathering area of Japanese immigrants, and why he was running to the Chinese border. Putting away the radio, Xu Huai looked around the room and suddenly remembered Lu Pingyan saying that a woman had come this afternoon. His eyebrows furrowed again. Did these two people make an agreement in advance, or did they contact each other through the phone radio? What did we do when we met again? Xu Huai turned off the light and stood in the dark room, paying attention and observing. Suddenly, he looked at the curtains, which had a tiny gap. Xu Huai walked up to the gap and looked into the courtyard, which was pitch black. He wondered if this man was also here staring outside just now. Xu Huai took a step forward, his gaze fixed. There was a thin rope outside the window with a hook on top, and below the hook was a pot of rose flowers. Feeling certain in his heart, Xu Huai slowly took a few steps back and hid behind the curtains to observe. His gaze passed through the distant roof, pitch black, and he couldn't see anything. He was slightly puzzled, not sure if he could see this potted flower on the roadside. A person with short intelligence, Xu Huai thought for a moment and felt that he needed to find a few helpers. Since it is basically certain that this person is a Japanese spy, it is necessary to report to the station. However, Xu Huai was a bit unhappy and remembered the recent Jinling Xiongzi village case. In this case, the Japanese spy stole the military defense map of the Jianghuai region from the military commission, and could only be sentenced for rape in the end. One is that the other party does not recognize the identity of a Japanese spy, and the other is that the authorities are afraid of provoking further provocation by the Japanese in the face of political turmoil. I don't know if the chairman of the standing committee who has returned from Chang'an still has the same idea and still has illusions about Japan. Thinking of this, Xu Huai was slightly lost in thought. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Trial, Recommended Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Trial, Recommended Collection. Lu Guqing arrived quickly with 4 people. Song Xingsan, Gao Haijian, Chang Wu, and Zhou Changlin. Several people took flashlights and looked at the man who had woken up. Song Xingsan kicked him and said, "This dog is just like the Chinese." Then he turned his head to look at Xu Huai and said, "Captain Xu, could you have made a mistake?" Lu Guqing remained silent and approached to search for the spy again. He found a hard paper folded together in the other person's arms, which was obviously an identity document. It says, Li Qingkai, 29 years old, from Shandong, Han ethnicity. Li Qingkai remained expressionless, staring coldly at the few people, choking his neck and saying nothing. Xu Huai asked Chang Wu to guard at the door and led a few people to the main house on the second floor. He pointed out the radio station and pistol on the table to the others. With these 2 things, even if Li Qingkai was not a Japanese spy, his identity would not be simple. Unlike the joy of Song Xingsan, Gao Haijian, and Zhou Changlin, Xu Huai and Lu Guqing were surprisingly calm. Since the First Battle of Shanghai on January 28, 1932, until the signing of the Shanghai Armistice Agreement, the authorities have been restrained and avoiding conflicts with the Japanese. Even if spies are caught, they are only expelled and there have never been public executions. Principal Chang is busy with suppressing bandits, hoping for mediation from the League of Nations, and also harbors illusions about how to provoke the Japanese. Whether the chairman, who has experienced the Double 12 incident in Chang'an, can fulfill his promise now also depends on next year. So catching a spy now is not only not a credit, but it may actually provoke you and become a scapegoat for the blame. Report to the webmaster first. Lu Guqing clenched his fist in grief and anger. His ancestral home is Wan Island. When the Japanese occupied Wan Island, his father organized a militia to resist and was stabbed 6 times, almost losing his life. He was educated from a young age to hate his country and his family, and he hated the Japanese devils to the bone. But he is another calm person who knows the seriousness of the matter. Leaving a few people to guard, Xu Huai, Lu Guqing, and Song Xingsan escorted Li Qinkai back to the headquarters of the Shanghai Special Service Office. In order to avoid leaking the address, Li Qinkai was knocked unconscious again. What? You caught a Japanese spy? Zhou Jinglong exclaimed in surprise. Picking up the pistol and taking a few glances, he checked the transmitter again before speaking up, take the person to the police station first. If anyone is on bail, let them go. Xu Huai and Lu Guqing exchanged a glance, although they knew it was the result, they couldn't help but feel disappointed and indescribable grief and anger. Do you want to report to the seat? Lu Guqing said. Zhou Jinglong snorted coldly, I don't want to catch Japanese spies, but this is politics, not military. What was the result of the Beihai incident a few months ago? Killing a few Japanese spies almost caused a war between the two countries, and in the end, he had to compensate the spy's family for 30,000 yuan. The situation between China and Japan is tense, and the Japanese are aggressive. What can we do? I haven't heard from above yet. Alright, execute the command. I will report back to you from there. Zhou Jinglong weakly waved his hand and asked the two of them to step down. I found a potted rose in front of his window, probably as a connector or as a warning. If I miss the best interrogation period, this person will really be worthless. Walking on the road, Xu Huai still couldn't let go. I can't kill, and I didn't say I can't be interrogated. Instead, I want to learn about Japanese spies and see what their abilities are. In the darkness, Lu Guqing sneered. Jinling, night. Courtyard 1 of Honggong Temple. Dai Chunfeng sat at his desk, still not resting. He just accompanied the principal and his wife from Chang'an back to Shiko today, and then rushed back to Jinling in the evening. This time, we lived and died together with the principal, but we were defeated and returned with great pride. He was both proud and excited. At this moment, Deputy Jia knocked on the door and said, Boss, the chief of the Zhou station in Shanghai has sent a telegram. Dai Chunfeng took it casually and saw that it was a confidential telegram that had already been translated. He was a bit careless and thought to himself, Zhou Jinglong has been in Shanghai for so long this week and has achieved nothing. He is still thinking about funding every day. Is it because he came to ask for money again? With this thought in mind, he glanced at the telegram and saw that a Japanese spy had been arrested, a pistol and a transmitter had been seized. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he pondered, call back, agree. His most important task now is to take care of Zhang Xiaoshui, without considering Japanese spies. However, a few days later, Dai Chunfeng changed his mind. Huajie, police station, interrogation room. Xu Huai and Lu Guqing sat in the main seat, accompanied by a police chief from the police station. The interrogation room, cold and damp, filled with a strong smell of blood, was eerie and terrifying, with various torture tools hanging next to them bloodstained. Xu Huai glanced at the smooth and worldly chief Hu next to him and said, "We can start now." "All right," he instructed the two people across from him, "let's start. These two are the officers of the Secret Service. Don't let them see our police station's jokes. Use any means you have." Li Qingkai is now tied to the interrogation chair, with two police officers standing in front of him, one tall and one short. The two of them have fat heads and big ears, very sturdy. The short police officer said, "Hu Tu, don't worry, Zhang San is reliable in handling things and will not embarrass you." As he spoke, he exchanged a glance with the tall man and looked at Li Qingkai, who had a rebellious expression on his face. He slapped him twice and the corners of his mouth were bloodshot. "Be honest, don't even look at where this is." Zhang San cursed and tugged at Li Qingkai's legs, starting to lay bricks under his legs. This was the most basic form of torture, commonly known as the tiger stool. As the bricks grew higher and higher, Li Qing finally couldn't help it anymore. Sweat as big as beans flowed down his neck from his forehead, and his face turned blue and purple. "Are you saying it or not? Kid, your mouth is quite tough." The two chubby men were already exhausted and panting, but the prisoner remained silent, which made them embarrassed and embarrassed. Xu Huai smiled faintly and handed a cigarette to Sheriff Hu, saying, "Old Hu, you shouldn't just resort to this method. Let's pass through some chilly water, bamboo sticks, tongs, or water punishment." Sheriff Hu's hand trembled as he ignited the fire, and he glanced at Xu Huai secretly. He cursed inwardly, looking gentle and gentle, yet he was so ruthless and ruthless. It was indeed from the Secret Service. The two people who were executing the sentence shouted, "Did you hear that? It's a shameful thing that you know how to eat and eat all day long. What about your strength?" Zhang San shook his head in defiance, his face gloomy, took off his clothes, picked up a soaked whip, and began to greet him. Pa, with dozens of whips down, Li Qingkai's skin peeled open, and blood and sweat were indistinguishable. Even so, Li Qingkai didn't shout except for a few muffled moans. "Dog day, it's hard to say." The tall police officer became impatient and picked up a steel wire whip soaked in water on the side, with rows of fine spikes on top, and greeted him directly with a sneer. "Thorny, whip it down and take away a piece of flesh and blood, with blood and foam flying wildly." Li Qingkai finally regained his composure, opened his sweat-blurred eyes, and said hoarsely, "I say. If you had known today earlier, why did you have to start?" Xu Huai sneered and said, "Name." "Li Qingkai." As soon as these words were spoken, he looked at Xu Huai's waving hand and his eyes trembled. He immediately changed his mouth and said, "Zhuyi Shunzi." Xu Huai and Lu Giqing exchanged a glance, each showing a happy expression. Xu Huai continued to ask, "Your code name, position, and source?" "Grey Wolf, no position, I come from Dongya Tunguen Academy." Tunguen Academy is a school established by Japanese people under the guise of economic and cultural exchange, secretly engaged in espionage activities, with its headquarters located in Shanghai. Humph. Xu Huai sneered and continued, "No position. What is your mission this time?" "Breaking into the Huajia police station, stealing internal files, analyzing records, and secretly plotting a rebellion." Once confessed, Shunzi Zhuya honestly confessed everything. Xu Huai saw that this person had not received professional training in adversarial interrogation, and it was not easy for him to hold on until now. He breathed a sigh of relief and felt powerless like a punctured balloon. "Okay, let's continue. How many people are there in your group or this group, and where have the others gone?" "Our group consists of 5 people, namely Grey Wolf, Red Wolf, Coyote, Hu Wolf, and White Wolf." Xu Huai sneered, "It turned out to be a pack of wolf dogs, no wonder the wolves are ambitious. As for where the others went, I really don't know." Shunzi Zhuya shook his head, licked his cracked lips, and said, "I want to drink water." Lu Giqing glanced at Sheriff Hu, who turned around and went out. Xu Huai continued to ask, how do you contact the online platform? By the way, a woman approached you today, and what is her identity? Zhuye Shunzi's eyes flickered for a moment, and his heart became cold. Unable to withstand punishment was one thing. He just wanted to confess himself, so that he could send these people away and end the pain. He didn't want the other party to even monitor Huizi. He bit his lip and shook his head firmly. No one has ever looked for me, I really don't know anything else. Xu Huai patted the table and scolded, Zhuye Shunzi, you'd better be honest. To be honest, I've been monitoring you for more than a day or two. Humph, since you're ignorant, don't blame me for being impolite. At this moment, Sheriff Hu walked in with a glass of water and saw that Xu Huai was about to continue his torture. He raised the water in his hand and said, this. Give it to him. Lu Guqing nodded. Thank you. Zhuye Shunzi said hoarsely, took the porcelain cup, gulp, and drank the water directly. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the porcelain cup fell to the ground. Zhuye Shunzi suddenly stiffened his body, his gaze wandering, his body twitching a few times, his mouth and nose bleeding, and his hands drooping weakly. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Silence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Silence. This sudden change caught people off guard. Xu Huai and Lu Guqing were also stunned for a few seconds and quickly approached to check. Lu Guqing tried his pulse and breath, shook his head helplessly, picked up the broken porcelain pieces on the ground, gently stroked them with his fingers, and sniffed under his nose, saying, potassium cyanide. Obviously, someone has poisoned it, and the poison is in the water. Sheriff Hu froze in place. Xu Huai stepped forward and dropped Sheriff Hu's gun, with a gloomy face. He asked, tell me, what's going on? I really don't know about this, it wasn't me who did it. I know it wasn't you who did it, you're not that stupid yet. Xu Huai kicked it to the ground and cursed, you better be sober and think about what happened when you went to fetch the water just now, and what kind of person you met. Otherwise, there's only a dead end waiting for you. Sheriff Hu, was about to cry without tears as he anxiously scratched his hair. In a daze, he suddenly said, I remember. It was Lin Peishan who poured me the water just now. I swear, I've only come into contact with him. Since I remember it, why are you still hesitating in catching people? Oh, yes, catch someone. Sheriff Hu hastily got up from the ground and stormed out of the interrogation room. I ran away and asked the guard at the door. Lin Peishan just finished work. Sheriff Hu, who was sweating profusely, was now at a loss, slapping himself hard in the face. He suddenly regretted it. He just went out to get some water. Why did he boast about the Japanese spy, as if he had caught the spy? But now everything is too late, who can prove his innocence now? Do you know where he lives? Yeah, if someone runs away, you can go to their house to intercept them. I'll go now. Xu Huai had no illusions about this and put himself in a different position. If he were Lin Peishan, he would definitely not return home and would either hide or sneak into the Japanese-occupied area. An undercover spy whose identity has been exposed is equivalent to being dead. Xu Huai prayed, hoping that Lin Peishan and Zhuye Shunzi were not grasshoppers on the same line, otherwise everything would be in vain. Lin Peishan's family lives in a small courtyard 4 blocks away from the police station. There is also a mother-in-law, wife, and a 5-year-old son. However, Lin Peishan entered the family 4 years ago and has nothing to do with it. Lin Peishan's mother-in-law appears to be around 50 years old, with wrinkles of time on her forehead and black hair mixed with silver strands. However, she looks very spirited and shrewd, clearly in charge of the family. Seeing a group of police officers rushing in and tossing incessantly, he scolded, "What are you doing? Is there any law left? What about Lin Peishan? Did he make a mistake? Even timid things can make mistakes." As he spoke, he grabbed Chief Hu and spat out. Hu Liuyi, to be honest, did that dog thing commit a crime? Speak up, but you introduced him to the police station at that time. Old thing, what are you saying? Pa, Hu Liuyi and Hu Sheriff's eyes dodged, and he looked at Xu Huai and Lu Guqing with a guilty expression. He shook off the old lady's entanglement, slapped the old lady to shut up, and angrily said, Lin Peishan killed someone, is this called not committing a crime? Pointing to his subordinates, he shouted, search carefully, don't miss any place. With a wow sound, Lin Peishan's 5-year-old son was scared and cried. Lu Guqing frowned as he watched the chaotic scene and said, be gentle, everyone. Searching is not about causing destruction. When a scholar encountered a soldier, it was unreasonable to say, but he could see that these police officers were even more savage than those from their investigation team and Secret Service. By the way, where is the child's mother? Dead, the old lady snorted coldly. Old thing, you better be honest. Hu Liuyi said angrily, and hurriedly explained. The child's mother works in the big world. It's hard to say. Originally, the male owner of this house was named Chen Shan, but he was a lazy and delicious person who enjoyed himself well. After losing his ancestral capital, he forced his wife to become a dancer and earn money to support the family later. For some reason, Chen Shan got drunk to death while drinking alcohol, and it wasn't until then that Lin Peishan became pregnant. After searching for half a day, there was no result, leaving 2 police officers to guard and the others to withdraw. After sending off the restless Hu Liuyi, Sheriff Hu, Xu Huai and Lu Guqing sat in the car on their way back, speechless for a moment. Zhou Jinglong, the webmaster, was even more speechless. In the Central Plains War of that year, Dai Chunfeng entered the camp alone, saying that the overall situation of the world will be divided and united for a long time. With his eloquent tongue, he convinced him to switch to Chang and join the Fuxing society led by Dai Chunfeng. Over the years, he followed Dai Chunfeng and truly understood him, so he became even more cautious, trembling, and walking on thin ice. Now that the Shanghai district has not achieved any success, he has suffered countless losses and even been undercover by the Red Party. He feels unprecedented pressure and exhausted. Now these 2 people are interrogating Japanese spies behind their backs, and they are still dead. He really doesn't know how to report to Boss Dai now. At night, Jinling. Number 1 courtyard of Honggong Temple, Dai Chunfeng's office, commonly known as Room A. He was awakened in the middle of the night, which made him very angry. When he got off the plane in Chang'an, he was confiscated with his gun. He was in a state of tension every day and had not slept well. Now that he has returned, he cannot fulfill his wish. Dai Chunfeng, sitting in the darkness wearing pajamas, had an uncertain expression and asked coldly, where did the telegram come from? Shanghai District Station Master Zhou. Deputy Jia observed his words and expressions, knowing that the boss was very angry at the moment and dared not say a word more. Read. Dai Chunfeng knocked on the table, feeling extremely angry. What is Zhou Jinglong up to? Boss, it's a top-secret message. Top secret. Dai Chunfeng was taken aback for a moment, only then did he notice that the folder in Deputy Jia's hand was purple, and his heart thumped. Is it possible that the Japanese have attacked Shanghai? He didn't dare to think about it, grabbed the folder, waved his hand to ask the deputy to step down, took out a password book from the safe, and began translating messages. Only he has the authority to send top-secret messages. A few minutes later, Dai Chunfeng looked at the telegram in his hand and was speechless. He slapped the table with an uncontrollable anger. Mother sheepy. At this moment, he finally understood the mood when the principal scolded him, angry, helpless, and speechless. He was both shocked and angry at the rampant behavior of Japanese spies, as well as at the incompetence of the webmaster Zhou Jinglong, and even more so at the audacity of Lu Guqing and Xu Huai. However, as his gaze swept over the names of Lu Guqing and Xu Huai, he remembered some things. He met Lu Guqing at Yang Hu's house back then, and this cultured college student left a good impression on him. He came from a promiscuous background and was fired for stealing clothes in high school. He was also expelled from Huanpu due to whistleblowing and corruption. He dropped out of school for a long time, but in the end, Principal Chang gave him the qualification to graduate. However, he was constantly ridiculed and looked down upon by those Huanpu elders. Although he likes to boast about his good face, his family knows his own affairs, so they have always attached great importance to talent. He fell in love with Lu Guqing, but he didn't expect Yang Hu's wife, Hua Mei, to recommend 9 to him at once and jokingly call them 9 locomotives. It's only been a few years since the incident happened, and he still remembers it vividly. Unexpectedly, these 2 bastards were so bold that they caught people and even caused them to die. Dai Chunfeng became more and more angry as he thought about it. He called for Deputy Jia to come in and said directly, send electricity to Zhou Jinglong, enforce family laws, and lock these 2 people in confinement. Deputy Jia naturally dared not ask how long he had been locked up, so he respectfully bowed and retreated. The deepest fear of a person is having to face themselves, and the deepest fear of a spy is discovering someone pointing a gun at them. Xu Huai had another nightmare. In the dream, Dai Chunfeng stood gloomy across from him, holding a revolver in his hand, and his eyes were gloomy. Undercover, you are an undercover agent infiltrated by the Red Party, he said. Bang, a gunshot startled him awake. Xu Huai let out a long sigh before realizing that he was dreaming. At this moment, the door was slammed, and Xu Huai, dressed in clothes, pinned his pistol behind him and asked, "Who?" "Captain Xu, open the door, old Zheng from the intelligence department." "Here we go." Xu Huai glanced at the cat's eye and confirmed it was Lao Zheng, then opened the door. But he found that old Zheng was smiling rather than laughing. With a wave of his hand, several armed men rushed in from behind and quickly took down Xu Huai's pistol to control him. "Old Zheng, what does this mean?" "I'll know what the webmaster means when I go." Exposed. Xu Huai thought for a moment and then shook his head to himself. Contract review in progress. Welcome everyone to invest and seek recommendations for collection. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mengxin has finally signed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Mengxin has finally signed. Mengxin, who only has 1 book at the starting point, has finally signed a contract. Ha! Thank you to the readers who have always supported me. Thank you very much, I have always kept it in my heart. P.S. After signing the contract, there will be a minimum of 2 more, perhaps more, usually around noon and 7 p.m. Finally, I would like to request a collection, recommendation, monthly pass, and of course, tipping is also possible. Finally, I will ask for a follow-up reading. It is very important to follow up on the reading. Thank you. End of this chapter.